We started Publishing Me Damned in 2004 I started it with Emily Pethick, to look at a very particular type of publishing, which was not just self-publishing, which can also include, say, vanity press of art and niche artist books, but to really look at the type of publishing that was more journal and periodical based, that people used as like a curatorial platform and as a way to bring together social groups. So the idea was to look at how groups formed around production of print rather than to look necessarily at the finely crafted artist books, of which there were already fairs catering for that kind of work. It was just there wasn't really this kind of area that was affordable for people publishing on zero profit, or actually negative profit, most of them, because the book fairs tended to cost people money to have stalls, and because we have this principle that all the stalls are free, it's a relatively open platform, and also a lot of the publications themselves are free. There was no point in trying to charge people. So the organisations run voluntarily. It's there to support things that are basically running voluntarily or as negative profit, and to support the social groups that form around those activities. More recently, we've kind of branched out to do other types of activity as well. We have a roving archive that gets shown in exhibitions. We've done a series of other event-based things around publishing, and that also in some ways echoes the interests of Publishing Me Damned, which are around the relationship of print to social groups or social events. So there's a really strong thing in London since we started that's kind of emerged in the last few years, which are publishing events. So X marks the box ship, who are here today, it's the events that are interrelated with the print that are really important, and that's our kind of peer group, if you like.
Publishing Me Damned is probably, I would consider, one of the first types of self-publishing fairs that really legitimized, in a way, this kind of boom of self-publishing that's been happening. So I kind of consider Publishing Me Damned to be like the granddaddy of what's been happening for the last several years, and you know, it's really positioned towards artists making very individual works around production, around networking. It's not about selling. It's about making an event and a moment for an artist to reach their audience, which is really nice.
Yeah, and Publishing Me Damned always was very much about that enjoyment of books as printed things. You know, from remembering going around the original fairs, it was very much a kind of scene of people swapping books and making things together.
A lot of swapping.
Before, you know, all of these trends in types of production and printing came along. So it's just really nice to see it continue and carry on, you know, with old familiar faces and new faces as well.
The certain emergent field that's been kind of hyper-enabled by digital technologies, that helps people put out kinds of writing that are unconventional and release them in a different way, deserves its own historical and theoretical context. And the genealogy for that context is really there already. And that context is basically publishing. And I'm not suggesting for a second that that should be an isolated context beyond things like print culture, visual culture, or anything else like that. But I'm saying that there's enough meat there, technically and historically, for it to be understood as a culture in itself. A culture that's not just a part of, say, bibliology or literary studies or anything else.
Matthew Statler states that publication describes publication as a deliberate, willful act. The circulation of texts, discussions and gatherings in physical space, and the maintenance of a related digital commons. These construct a common space of conversation, a public space, which beckons a public into being. So when we talk about publishing, we are talking about making an expression public, but all of the things that go along with it as well.
And if you take seriously this idea that you've got this kind of potential synthesis, both in the history of publishing and in the technical possibilities of publishing now, from this idea of kind of writing as if you produce a transferable manuscript that then gets processed for publishing, but from the stage of writing through composition, through replication, through pressing, and then through distribution. And that pressing might be entirely digital as well. If you take that seriously, then you can think really dynamically about the possible event structures for putting non-conventional writing out in the world.
I'm really taken by the idea of art production in its fullest extent as a way to push human consciousness and such human production in alternative directions.
It's just a way of kind of making connections and finding out about other different artists, publishers and writers, and
feeling part of a network, so feeling like you're not the only person that's creating anything like this.
in terms of artist publishing, I think it enables different kind of practice to be disseminated and printed and kind of put out there, because things that perhaps don't quite fit into journals or magazines or more literary forms of publishing. And I think self-publishing, and I think enables you to kind of explore different things than perhaps you can do when it comes into the bigger industry.
So first come, first serve, that's the point. So we want it to be as big as possible so that we can do that.
We always also want to encourage new members and kind of get new publications in as well. I think that's also the good thing about Publish and Be Damned, is that the variety of publishers that we get, because we have musicians, we have designers, we have fashion people. I think someone's selling some ceramics over there. There's it's also, I think Publish and Be Damned really illustrates that there's so many different ways to think about publishing and what that is, and think about ways of disseminating various information.
I am interested in distributing ideas, and so it's a wonderful venue to try and get ideas out there.
Rather than doing exhibitions or galleries and all that sort of stuff, our outlet is printed matter of some kind, and we try and keep things very affordable. So every publication we do costs less than £10, and all the ones here are less than £5. So it's about kind of making it accessible and easy for people to get to.
It's an engaged project. Anyone who spends time trying to figure out how to distribute knows that you do it in multiple ways. We work with distributors, but then we also have our own website. We do book fairs and gatherings like this. We do events. We also make direct contacts with bookstores and info shops and museums. So it's a very hands-on process.
Our self-publishing platform, which is called And Public. And this is the stall that I have outside today. And Public is essentially a very straightforward resource where we point you in the direction of existing print-on-demand interfaces like Lulu and Blurb, and these things, if you're not aware, you basically can go online and you can publish your own work using a simple set of instructions, and there's templates, and it's all very clear on how to do it. And then we offer distribution. So what we're presenting to you is a mode of production as well as distribution, because the two are equally as important. And in terms of distribution, that means that we have a shop online. We put your book online. We have a kiosk at X Marks the Box Ship, and we come to fairs like this as well.
Horizontality figures differently now. It figures right the way through production and reception. Yeah. It's not just an old question of means of control of the tools of production.
And from that, unusual things occur.
Yeah.
People find unusual ways to use media that weren't dictated from above, but pirated or hacked or reconfigured in a way that's totally unexpected because of the opportunity and because of having their own niche audience.
If you take seriously this idea of publishing as its own context, like a contemporary context, you have the possibility of a kind of true synthesis of, or the beginnings or a feeling toward a true synthesis of practice and theory in something like publishing as praxis.
You can become a fan of Publish and Be Damned. You can join our fan club, and you will get this badge, or this badge, or this badge, but just one. And as well as the badge, you get listed on our website as a fan?
The purpose of becoming a fan is to help support Publish and Be Damned continuing to put on fairs. And one thing that we are wanting to do more of is to bring international publishers over to our fairs. So we're really keen to build support for that.
Yeah.